Good morning, St Heliers School children. Today I'm going to read you a story called Grandma McGarvey Paints the Shed. It's written by Jenney Hessell, it's illustrated by Trevor Pye, and the publisher is Scholastic. It's one of my favourite stories, so I hope you enjoy this too. When Grandma McGarvey painted the shed, she didn't use ordinary paint. Instead, she mixed up a brew in the kitchen sink using barbecue sauce and Indian ink. She threw in a bucket of globulous glue and a handful of glitter, all silver and blue. Then she melted down crayons and mixed them all in with a dollop of something she found in a tin. "You have to have just the right colours," she said, "before you can paint a shed." When Grandma McGarvey painted the shed, she didn't use regular brushes. Instead, she piled up a stack of assorted things: straw, some floppy old violin strings, a feather which Polly had dropped on the floor, and some hair that the dog didn't need anymore. Then she tied it all up in a wiggly bunch with some strands of spaghetti left over from lunch. "A sensible brush is important," she said, "if you're going to paint a shed." When Grandma McGarvey painted the shed, she didn't wear workaday clothes. Instead, she dolled herself up in her Sunday best, a polka dot blouse and a violet vest, a hand-me-down skirt which didn't quite fit, a pair of old socks which smelled quite a bit, boots that she had bought at the army shop, and a hat with a bunch of bananas on top. "Appearances are important," she said, "when you're going to paint a shed." When Grandma McGarvey painted the shed, she didn't make orderly patterns. Instead, she began at the bottom with squiggles of blue that sparkled like waves under glitter and glue. She added a wobbly wiggle of white and a rainbow that didn't turn out quite right. Then she covered the corners with dribbly dots and noughts and crosses and splotchety spots, and a stripe of silver to cover the streak where the dog had done something disgraceful that week. Then she topped it all off with some musical lines and stars and moons and zodiac signs, and a brilliant self-portrait in yellow and green that she put round the back where it wouldn't be seen. "It always pays to be modest," she said, "when it comes to painting a shed." When Grandma McGarvey painted the shed, she didn't just paint the walls. Instead, she climbed on the roof while clutching the tin, and the lid toppled off with a deafening din, and the dog, which was yapping and trying to help, was hit on the nose and ran off with a yelp. But the roof was so rusty she started to slide, so she had to stretch out and hold onto the side. And as she leaned over to grab at the tin, a banana broke loose from her hat and fell in. "Life is full of surprises," she said, "whenever you paint a shed." When Grandma McGarvey finished the shed, she didn't just pack up her things. Instead, she invited the neighbours and half of the street to a shed warming party with plenty to eat. Then Grandma McGarvey explained the designs and told people's fortunes with zodiac signs. They played noughts and crosses and joined up the dots and got sticky fingers from all the wet spots. And when it grew dark, they pulled out some chairs and lit up the garden with firework flares, and the adults all gasped and the children all grinned, while the dog ran in circles and barked at the wind. And Grandma McGarvey smiled proudly and said, "Now that's what I call a spectacular shed."